People of these American states united, welcome to the show, the Constitution explained in children's terms. Forget about Limbaugh and Beck. It's time to turn them off and tune in right here. Make yourself comfortable for the next 2 hours and be ready to be reaffiliated with the founding of our great union. This is the show you all have been waiting for. This is the show where you will cast aside your indoctrination into the system of lies and relearn the construct of the Union of States as established and ratified in the year of 1789. I am your host, known only as Harry. I strive to assist the people of the states in recognizing the true heritage of liberty and freedom which the establishers of the Union of Individual States had in plan for their future generations. That heritage was not only misunderstood from the initiation of the contract between states, but it also was reconstructed into the monster which we endure today. The people have the power to cage that monster. However, extremely few recognize and utilize those powers. We will be maintaining strict rules of conduct when we are on the air and ask that all callers do the same. This is an educational show, and we desire that children are able to listen to the discussion here without fear of being offended with foul or hateful language. Please feel free to send a chat message or call into the show. The call-in number is 516-595-8117. That's 516-595-8117. We would love to hear from you. Welcome to the show, anybody listening, live listeners, archive listeners, YouTube listeners, welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, we will be going over Article 1, Sections 4 through 7. Much of these sections and clauses are rather self-explanatory. However, we don't want to leave any dust falling through the cracks by not going over each one individually. This show will bring us up to Article 1, Section 8, which we will begin to define on our next show. I'm not sure if one show will completely cover that section. Other than our show presenting Article 1, Section 1, where we discuss the fact that the Congress had no authority to create law upon the individual, Section 8 is probably the most important section in the Constitution established for the United States of America. It lists in detail the exact job assignments given to the Congress, assignments which the Congress was intended to perform for the states. In fact, those tasks were the sole purpose of writing that Constitution and re-establishing the Union between the individual nations initiated under the Articles of Confederation, while attempting to make that Union more perfect. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the place of choosing senators. The legislatures of each of the states individually are to determine the times, places, and the procedures in which their state legislature elects their senators, and the citizens of the states shall elect their representatives unless the Congress legislates differently. The Congress has lawfully legislated on the election of the representation of the state districts. Within 2 U.S. Code, Chapter 1, Election of Senators and Representatives. Title 2, The Congress. Section 7, Time of Election. The Tuesday next after the first Monday in November in every even-numbered year is established as the day for the election in each of the states and territories of the United States of representatives. The Congress, however, has no lawful power to alter the place where the state legislative bodies choose their senators. Under the unlawful 14th Amendment governments, this was altered with the 17th Amendment, whereas the people now elect their state's senators. Clause 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. As of January 23, 1933, with the ratification of the 20th Amendment, the Congress is now to assemble on the third day of January at noon. This clause does not say that the Congress may, should, might, or maybe assemble. It says shall. Other than unavoidable instances of emergency, there should be no excuse for a member of Congress to not be in their appointed seat on that day and time. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1. Each House shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a small number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each House may provide. Each House, the House of Representatives and the House of the Senate, is the only lawful body to judge whether their members were elected through lawful means, to judge the election returns, and to judge whether the elected members meet the qualifications of being a member as described in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2 for members of the House of Representatives and Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3 for members of the House of the Senate. In order for each House of Congress to do business, there must be a minimum of more than half of its members present, which constitutes a quorum. Presently, the House of Representatives requires 218 members to constitute a quorum, and the House of Senate requires 51 members. A smaller number in attendance may adjourn each day until there is sufficient attendance to constitute a quorum. Each House shall set their own rules of compelling absent members to attend, and may set their own rules as to compelling attendance and to the penalties or punishment of their respective members for being absent. Clause 2. Each House may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Each House may adopt their own rules to define the proceedings during session. Each House may also discipline its members for conduct that is deemed unacceptable. However, no member may be expelled without a 2/3 majority vote in favor of expulsion. Clause 3. Each House shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either House on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Both the House of Representatives and the House of the Senate are to keep a complete journal of the proceedings during sessions of doing business. These journals will be published at times determined by each House for the benefit of the public. Contents within the journals that require secrecy, especially matters of military during war, matters of investigation, and issuing letters of marque and reprisal, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, will, at their discretion, not be published. The votes, as in the yeas and the nays, of the individual members of each of the Houses shall be counted and recorded in the journal any time a minimum of 20% of those members in attendance request that the individual votes be placed into the written record. Clause 4. Neither House, during the session of Congress, shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two Houses shall be sitting. Neither the House of Representatives nor the House of the Senate are allowed to adjourn during the assigned time of the Congress to be in session, other than for a maximum of 3 days without the approval of the other House. Neither House may relocate during the assigned time without the approval of the other House. It requires both Houses to create legislation to be presented to the President for approval. This rule is in place for the purpose that one of the Houses cannot prevent the other House from doing business purely by adjourning or relocating. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1. The Senators and Representatives shall receive a compensation for their services, to be ascertained by law, and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of the respective Houses, and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. All members of the Congress are to be compensated for performing their duties as members of the Congress. It is important to understand that being a member of the Congress is not a full-time job in a constitutional union of states. When it is understood fully, the content, the duties, or properly labeled, the listed tasks of the Congress as they appear in Article 1, Section 8, it is then simple to understand that the Congress, as it exists today, has managed to overcompensate themselves at the people's expense. The people of these American states have allowed themselves to be robbed continually by a Congress on steroids. The Congress is not only on steroids with their pay scale, but also on steroids with their unconstitutional law creation. $476.72 per day, 365 days a year, is the minimum pay for each member of the Congress. The President pro tempore of the Senate receives $529.86 per day, and the Speaker of the House receives $612.33 per day. The Congress is costing the people of the states $208,515.39 per day every day of the year. That not only does not include their pensions and health care, it also does not include what they cost the people of the states with their unconstitutional programs, which they pump out on a daily basis, and their unconstitutional employment in the public sector. This is an outrage, and it is portrayed as living in the land of the free. The sad truth is that this clause does not grant the Congress the power to create the law which determines their pay. However, the state legislatures have not prevented them from doing so. The corruption, which by allowing the Congress to set their own pay, which has ensued, cannot adequately be described here. This clause only states that a law should determine their pay. The people of these American states can bring this robbery to a halt anytime they realize that they are the ones who are supposed to be in charge of their governments. The people of the states were thrown a bone in 1992 with Amendment 27, which states that the Congress cannot offer themselves an immediate raise. They can raise their pay, but they must wait a maximum of 2 years to receive it. In other words, their raise didn't come in the form of more robbery until after the next election of representatives. This amendment was actually proposed about 200 years prior to its ratification. No member of Congress shall be detained or arrested while they travel to and from the Congress in assembly unless they are being lawfully accused of either treason, a heinous crime, or engaging in some form of unruly public behavior, such as fighting or causing excessively loud noise. No member of Congress shall be detained or arrested while they travel to and from the Congress in assembly for the purpose of questioning, especially questions regarding the procedures of the Congress in assembly. Clause 2. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. During the term for which a member of the Congress is elected, he or she cannot concurrently accept a position in the public sector, or in other words, employed in the public sector on behalf of a government department or agency. If the position is under the authority of the United States, the Congress, and if that position was created or if that position received a pay raise, while the member is a member of the Congress. This rule was to prevent members of the Congress from creating themselves employment or enhancing their existing employment outside of the Congress and compensated by the Congress. It helped prevent conflict of interest. No person can be a member of the Congress and at the same time hold another position under the authority of the United States, the Congress. This is not repeating the first part of that clause. The first part of that clause is about holding a civil position, which has been changed during their term in Congress. This part excludes them from being employed in any office directly under the United States while being a member of the Congress. Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. All tax and appropriation bills for raising money must originate in the House of Representatives. The Senate may amend those bills, however, all of those bills must originate in the House of Representatives. Neither the Senate nor the President were to play a hand in the creation of bills for funding. It is important to remember that the House of Representatives is designed to be the direct voice of the people of their own district, that each representative was to carry the exact vote of their own district to the Assembly of the Congress. It is important to remember that the Congress was only established to perform certain tasks for the states, not to perform for the people. That list of tasks was to be the limit of actions which the Congress could pursue. It is most important to remember that the voters of the districts, the voices to be carried to the Assembly of the Congress, were usually only those who would be paying the taxes. Each state was to decide the requirements of who could vote within the state. Until the unlawful 14th Amendment, the Congress had no say in who could vote except that the states were to allow voting for representatives to anyone eligible to vote on state issues and elections. People who paid no taxes were to have no voice in Congress, especially in creating taxes. That is the recipe for Republican form of government. What we suffer today is that everyone votes to grant themselves gifts from the government. They listen to promises and vote for these gifts while not being concerned as to where the funding comes from. Most of the voters pay very little in taxes. In fact, most of the voters receive almost all of their taxes back from the National Fund. People do not go to the polls to create a tax upon themselves. They go to the polls in hopes of receiving a benefit for which they expect to not pay their own rightful share for that benefit. That is the pitfall of democratic form of government, which is exactly how the Union of States is in operation in today's world. Clause 2. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it, with his objections to that House, in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal, and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases the votes of both Houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each House respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by the adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. This clause, for the most part, is self-explanatory. It describes how a bill becomes law of the land. It describes the process of a bill being presented to the President and the process by which it may still become law if the President vetoes it. It is important to note that the votes on all bills are to become public knowledge. In representative government, it is the duty of all voters to keep track of the votes of their respective representative. The voters of a district should be paying attention as to whether their representative is voting according to their district's demands. If the representative is not doing so, that representative should be replaced during the next election cycle. Today, most voters run to the polls to grant membership into the so-called class of elites and then never pay attention to any of the votes cast by that person. Most probably, it is this lack of due diligence which is the number one cause for the fall of Republican in form of government which the individual states have suffered. This clause also describes the number one job of the president. Most of the things we see the president doing while in office today has nothing to do with the Constitution established for the United States of America. Most of the term of the president occupies time involved in issues and procedures which were not granted to the office in that Constitution. Other than being Commander-in-Chief of the Navy all the time and being Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, but only when there is a constitutionally declared war by the Congress, the number one job which the President is tasked with is to see to it that all bills being proposed by the Congress are kept within the confines of the Constitution. When the President sees that a bill has been written that goes outside those boundaries, it is the President's job to veto it, just as if the bill is within the boundaries, the President should sign it into law. The office of the President is the only office tasked with the interpretation of the Constitution. Clause 3. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. With the exception of the Congress adjourning, every action of the Congress must be presented to the President. The President is either to approve the action or disapprove it, veto it. No matter if the President approves it or vetoes it, the bill must be returned to Congress to again be voted on, and a 2/3 vote in each house must be reached in order for the bill to become law of the land. That is Article 1, Sections 4 through 7. We're not going to jump into Section 8 tonight because that is a big section. I got nothing else for tonight. Oh, I do have one other thing. Let me find that. There has been and probably always will be the discussion or the debate of those who claim that this is a Christian nation, and the only way we're going to find our way back to the founders' plan is through Christianity. Now, I don't put down the thought of Christianity or anything else. That's not my point. The idea that only Christians can be free and operate under the framers' plan is just ludicrous. And they're, like I say, it's a perpetual argument. And there's a lot of things going on Facebook and other social medias, whatever, where people argue that point. And they'll point out things the framers and the founders said and the people back then said. And you know, maybe they did. And maybe the bulk of them were all Christians, but there's facts pointing that they were not all Christians. There were even agnostics. I don't know if any of them were claimed there was no deity, but there's been a lot of argument. So anyways, I'm going to read a response that somebody put on Facebook, a well put together response that I think covers the subject quite well. And I'm glad I remembered that tonight, because this will give a little more links to the show, a little more time for people to call in, And when I'm done with this, if I don't get any callers, we'll probably call it end of the night. Gentlemen, I'm reluctant to enter this conversation again, but I feel the need to point something out here. It may or may not be correct in asserting that an understanding and the common practice in 18th century America, and there may be discrepancies between how things were done even then, depending on whether one is looking at one of the states or the federal government, or even variations in practices from one administration or Congress to another. I don't know. But regardless of whether this was the practice at that time, under those circumstances, there is no compelling reason for us to be bound to imitate or recreate their behavior in this particular matter. The common practice then was also to exclude women from full citizenship, voting, public office, full enjoyment of equal rights, and even property ownership except under exceptional circumstances. Are we to reinstate that practice as well? And I won't even elaborate on the parallel we see here with slavery and the denial of equal rights for blacks. My point is this: our understanding of the world and of ourselves as human beings has changed over these intervening 250 years or so. As well, the demographic constitution of our population is drastically different than it was then. We are not and cannot ever be as provincial today as men then had the luxury of being, if indeed it is a luxury to live one's life in a bubble of limited experience and knowledge. As I have recently quoted elsewhere, Jefferson famously admonished, "We might as well require a man to wear still the coat which fitted him when a boy, as civilized society to remain ever under the regimen of their barbarous ancestors." There is a lot that is wise, prudent, commendable, and beneficial in the system of government that our founders created, and the liberty and frugality that it afforded its people, as well as the simple fact that it was a system grounded in the rule of law as opposed to the rule of men, are chief among the myriad reasons for us to seek to reestablish that system. But, gentlemen, that does not, by any means, entail that we are either compelled or even justified in reviving that system of government wholesale, in restating it in every one of its innumerable features and facets. We are engaged in this endeavor in the pursuit of liberty as much as for any reason, and it is absurd to become so blinded by our investigation of the historical details of what was that we forget the entire nature of what motivated us to embark on this journey in the first place, that we forget that we are free to make our own will within certain parameters of the law and to forge our own future and destiny. It would be unspeakably backward of us in this process if we were to allow our commitment to law to actually doom our quest for liberty. The law in this endeavor is merely a means to a greater and far more noble end, freedom for those who endure whatever government rules over this land. If the process sublimates the objective, then we have become dogmatic to our own detriment and to the detriment of all whom we ostensibly seek to liberate. And that makes us no better and no different than those who subjugate the people of America today. It is entirely possible for most human beings, barring those who are either nihilists or psychopaths, to make a solemn promise. Call it an oath, an affirmation, a covenant, a commitment, a promise, or whatever other name you might reasonably apply. The point is not what God they make such a commitment to or in the name of. The point is that they solemnly and sincerely attest that they hold their commitment in the absolute highest regard, that it is a priority beyond doubt or question in their minds, and that they commit to accord their actions with that intention of their mind in all respects whatsoever. As I said, that capacity is hardly limited to Christians. It is well within the abilities of the vast preponderance of people on this earth. So as with barring the vote from women and denying the rights of the black man, I make the claim that it is wholly without good reason, in fact, that it is starkly contrary to good reason, given the composition of the American demographic today, for us to insist that only a Christian, And we won't even get into the question of who is genuinely a Christian and how we might discover the veracity of such a claim is eligible to take an oath to hold office or position of trust in the system of government we aim to reestablish. We can do better than that. Indeed, we have an ethical obligation to do better. Let us keep from that old system of law that which is most conducive and helpful to our aims of liberty and lawful government, and let us allow the rest to be subject to our revision and adaptation according to our best judgment in the interest of the ends which justify and motivate all of our actions in this quest. Let's not bind ourselves by an unreasonable, unnecessary, and unenlightened dogmatic assumption to wear the coat which fit us as a boy. And that comes from Milo Townsend, and he's very active in, I believe he's in North Carolina, but North Carolina is the basis for America's Remedy. That's americasremedy.com. In my opinion, they have the closest remedy that the people of the states should employ to return sanity to our liberties and our freedoms. So let's go back to my board, and I see a caller on my list. If you press number 1, I'll bring you on to talk. If you don't press number 1, I'll just let you sit there and listen. Well, I see that question mark coming up from my listener. I got someone on Facebook. I might get a new caller coming in. I don't know if he's going to call in or not. He said he found the show, but dead silence. I'm going to type something.
Oh, okay. I was listening for it, and I'm on some medication, so I just kind of like I was listening. I closed off. I just woke back up, so I missed a lot of it. But I can always go back in the queue and listen to it. But I like your commentary. I like your commentary at the end itself. So, like you were talking about the, they couldn't raise their thing. Well, it happened 200 years later. They were going to do it first. Said, hey, let's give ourselves a raise. Yeah, let's give ourselves a raise. Yeah. And it costs us per thing $600 some dollars a day, and they're not even there half the time. They don't show up. There's
nothing in the wording there that the law has to be created by Congress. Nothing.
Right.
State legislatures can get together any time and give them a nice big downsizing pay.
Yeah, there's something. That's one of the things I didn't like about the Constitution. That they should allow the states to set their own.
But it didn't prohibit them from it. It didn't prohibit them from it one bit. They can go in and change that pay rate tomorrow. Well, it takes a little longer than a day. So I'm exaggerating there. But.
But I kind of disagree, because then they take it to the Supreme Court and they lose. It's the same with term limits. The states, Colorado, Illinois, and a couple other ones followed them, limited the terms on their representatives, and the representatives took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says you can't do that. These are federal employees. You states have no rights to do this.
But let's go with the wording of the Supreme Court in the Constitution. Do either one of those cases cross state lines as is described? I have to put it right in front of my face and read it.
But here again, the Supreme Court really has no power anyways to just run their opinions. And
that's what I mean.
And the states themselves just say, we don't care what he says. You step down after 2 years or after 6 years or whatever. And they should have. They shouldn't have listened to the opinion. But we now have built it up so much, the Supreme Court up so much, that we think that their opinion is better than the constitutional law. We take their opinion with more, because that's what the media and everybody else should believe.
Now, none of what we've discussed so far, none of those people who we're talking about are ambassadors, public ministers, or consuls, are they? I haven't got to that section yet, so I haven't looked up definitions for those yet.
Well, they can stretch it to be kind of that.
We're going to have to look into the old dictionaries and see what those three people are. Well, they're not ambassadors. I mean, they're Congress people, not ambassadors. Public ministers? I don't think they're public ministers. So what are consuls?
Well, they could, they could stretch for public minister. They could.
But we're the people. We're not going to let them stretch.
Well, but they do it all the time anyways. And, the people don't do anything about it.
I know. That's the thing. The people consent to it is the problem.
Right. And...
because we're not talking about a controversy between two or more states. We're not talking about between a state and a citizen of another state. Between citizens of different states. None of this none of that we've talked about would fit into that.
Right. Oh, and I agree that the states did have the right to limit the terms on their representatives.
Yeah.
And I agree
I
agree that the Constitution ruling on it, what the Supreme Court said, was their opinion, but it still has no weight in the state. And if the state wants to go ahead, they should be able to yank out their reps after 6 years.
Yeah. And the problem is the badge wearers enforce all of that without question. Here's what a consul is. An official appointed by a government to live in a foreign city and protect and promote the government's citizens and interests there. So none of what what Article 3, Section 3 deals with has anything to do with our congresspeople. They have no jurisdiction lawfully. Of course, they stretch the 14th Amendment to say it does.
Well, not just the 14th Amendment. They stretch a lot of other things. Like I said, if you go, it's not just the 14th Amendment they stretch. They stretch. Actually, if you go to, I don't know if you got a chance to go to Patriot. It's Patriot.
I got
Patriot
all that.
I got
all that stuff in my. Yep, I've got that stuff in my notes. There is a ton of stuff, and a lot of it is stuff that you've put on our show that I am going to do when I'm done with this series. Right now, by the time I'm done with working, and I do a lot of the cooking around the house and what have you, and by the time I'm done with everything, just getting this show done in 2 weeks is, because then I edit it, upload it, and then I make the YouTube video. It's eating up all my time. I got a list, and that you mentioned before, and I'm sure that's in my notes. I will be going there when I get that extra time.
Patriot Corps, his premises, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, allows them also, the Congress, to make any laws within inside the District of Columbia, D.C., whatever they want. Well, they just make all these laws for D.C., but apply it to the whole country.
Yep.
And that means they can make the rest of the Constitution is meaningless.
Right. But they use the 14th.
And they actually use that power to create bust the Bank of the United States. Hamilton found that and says, we can have the Bank of the United States right here in D.C. because we can make any law we want to make. Yep. So we're not bound by the Constitution in any way or anyhow. So, and to him, that's where the problem was. You guys say it's 14. They think it's that. I think it's just, there's a lot of flaws in the whole thing. I'm an anti-federalist, so I don't even think we should accept the Constitution. We should still be under the Articles of Confederation.
I think the biggest problem is the education of the people and the willingness to consent to whatever's told from above. And my fingers quotation marks are up when I say from above.
Right. If we were really, if we really had the people of the states adhering to that the state government is much more important, which was in the beginning. That we should follow, and local and state government first. That's where power should be at the local level, and then the state level, and the federal government just to resolve the differences and what it was originally meant to be. the 17 thing, or there was like 17 things they were supposed to do, like the post office and treaties with other countries, and what our founders really intended it to be. If we were stick to local government first, state government second, those are your priority, and then the federal government, is just supposed to resolve any disputes or stuff, but the states are supposed to set up their own place. And in a way, we're still doing it. I mean, the state governments technically have applied to our life a lot more than the federal government does. Although the federal government wants you to think everything runs through it. And, and they have been nullifying federal government laws, and that's what brought up the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions in 1798 was, the fact that Jefferson and Madison both believed that the states did have the right to overrule any law that's not constitutional. And, that's not, and the Article 6 is, what is the supreme law of land? Any law that's in pursuance of the Constitution, any federal law that's in pursuance. So if it's not in pursuance of the constitutional, then
it's not right.
The states can veto it. And then, that's what the Kentucky and Virginia resolution was about.
And I don't think we even have to go that far. The individual has the right to ignore it and should win in court if they're accosted for not following it because it's not lawful. Right.
That's true. The individual has it, and also the law can't be enforced by other individuals because all laws regarding the citizens of the United States, they do have a right to a trial by jury of their peers, and their peers can also rule on the legitimacy of it.
And that's a big part of it.
Have you ever looked FEJ up yet?
Well, hang on. You touched on the biggest part of it, because the 14th Amendment is what they use a lot of time. The under the jurisdiction clause of the 14th Amendment is what they use against us. What in Republican form of government, the only thing we should be under the jurisdiction of are witnesses a witness that witnessed us committing a crime, and 12 people of the jury. Those are the people that we should be only under the jurisdiction of. We shouldn't be under the jurisdiction of government in Republican form of government.
And that's where the real dagger for the 14th Amendment is.
Yes.
Because we should be under
the jurisdiction
law,
thereof.
We should be under, and that's called common law. We should be under common law. But that's why you need to ask when you go to any court, what jurisdiction am I under? So even if you're in there for a red light camera ticket or something else, like, what is the jurisdiction of this court? Well, this jurisdiction has no jurisdiction over me because I'm under common law in the United States of America. Now, if you go for that aspect, that's the way you have to argue that case, and it should actually be, it's like back to common law, but the 14th Amendment took us off common law, and that's why you'll see we can go to most court houses. I don't know if you guys talk about this, but I remember years ago, back in the 80s, when FEJ and then we're talking about the maritime law, that it's under maritime law, which is the law of the seas, or sort of a universal law. Now we have jurisdiction over you because you are no longer under common law of the United States. You're under maritime law. And the 14th Amendment brought that to life, which was a very bad thing.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, people have been fighting that for a long time, and the sovereign citizen movement and stuff like that back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, that's, it's a lot of the stuff redundant, but, I mean, you get back down to it. I was never one to hit one particular spot. The basic thing, like what FEJ says, is, common law. And that's what the common law jury is all about, too, is to bring back the common law. And get the law back. And that's what we need to really educate people is let's get back to common law. The 14th Amendment sucks. You have a right to the jurisdictions. We all have a right to trial. Jury appears in all cases over $20, and if all these cases are over $20 today, anyways, they wouldn't even take it to court.
And the jury has the right to acquit if they recognize the law has no. Well, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
If it's not valid, they may have the right to veto bad law. That's one of my things that George. I have a T-shirt that I create myself because I think it says it all on the front. And George rule. The Constitution comes down to two words: George rule, and then on the back, have George can veto bad law, because how many bad laws our government's going to make. I couldn't even count how many bad laws, and most of them are statutory that our government has made. For every good law they make about 10 bad laws.
We can't even keep track of how many they make per day.
Right. That's what I'm saying. For every good one they make about 10 bad ones. So the only really solution, and if you really want to get back to, and the 14th Amendment, it is a big part. I think it's probably one of the worst things that happened to our country. You can point at other things, like you said, but we need to get people back to common law. And there's people fighting in many different ways, like your one friend in North Carolina tried to get a whole new state thing put in there. And like the common law grand jury, try to get common law grand juries in every state. But everything, it's a tough battle. It all comes down to education.
Yeah, and probably the worst thing that's happened is how comfortable the people are in their skin right now. They just don't want to change anything. They'll agree with everything we say, but we don't want to change. And that's the bad thing.
Yeah. Most people are pretty complacent. Once you're complacent, they're not going to uprise against you. And then
one of the things,
the majority, like when King George was in power against the colonists, the colonies were only like maybe not even a quarter of his empire. And that's why he struggled. Why would these guys be uprising? They're not uprising in India. They're not uprising in Australia. They're not uprising over in Africa.
But we don't even have to uprise. We don't even have to uprise. One of the things that I've had a lot of discussion with a lot of groups, and of course I'm talking Facebook groups again, but different groups of people, because I got friends from each different, from so many different ways. And one of the things they keep posting is this new abortion stuff, this end of term abortion and stuff. And I keep pushing them to say, stop worrying about what the Roe versus Wade, stop worrying about some law somewhere else that's being created. Work in your community to outlaw it. People don't understand that they can, in their state, override Roe versus Wade.
Exactly.
They can, but they won't get out and do it. They're waiting for it to be fixed at the center. Fix it in your community, then work on your state.
Right, and that's what I was saying earlier. Our fathers, the people that in those days realized the local government was supposed to support them, then the state. The federal government wasn't. In fact, most people, even formation during ratification debates, which did almost get ratified, didn't think that the federal government had much power. That's why when Patrick Henry was screaming at Madison that, if you don't, especially there wasn't even a Bill of Rights setting, he says, if you don't do something about, not being a Bill of Rights, if you don't do something else about this, that someday this government, and there wasn't even a government yet, they were just going to make it. It's going to grow so big, it's going to come into your houses and measure everything you eat, drink, and wear. He was just trying to warn his fellow citizens that you should not ratify this Constitution. It should not exist. It should not. It's dangerous. It's bad.
You're talking about Mason?
Vote for it.
You're talking about Mason?
Mason. No, Mason. Patrick Henry. Mason didn't want it either because Mason didn't want it. Patrick Henry did this at the Virginia ratifying debate in front of Washington, in front of Madison, in front of the whole tier. And it was the best order of the day. And lightning was going off, and people were packed in the church and outside the church, and he just had a voice to say. And he says, someday this government will grow so big, it'll measure everything you eat, drink, and come into your houses, measure everything and sellers and measure everything you eat, drink, and wear. And
I just recently read
and
something.
These people are looking at them like, what? We don't even have the federal government. How's that going to happen? We've been a member of this colony and this local government, and it worked there. And there wasn't much until the Civil War. The Civil War really brought in the federal government into existence, and it pretty much destroyed the states and created the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. There was a big thing I read, a really good article I read, something about Henry versus Marshall. I don't know if Patrick Henry and him actually debated or what it was. I'd have to read it again to remember what it was about.
Wow.
But it was a pretty good thing.
Wow. Because Henry was a lot older than Marshall. You sure it wasn't Jefferson voting Marshall?
And I don't know.
Jefferson and Marshall were second cousins, and they were from basically the same lineage, and I think they had the same great grandfather. So basically, they were, but they were at odds with each other, because what Marshall did, with Adams, and the famous case Marbury versus Madison, because he took off. Marbury versus Madison is for.
Do you got a pencil and paper handy?
What were you going to tell me about? I don't. Yeah, I might have one.
Google sometime. It's an article. Who wrote this? I saved it so I could read it again.
Because Marshall and Henry are two of the guys that two of my more favorite. I got like maybe a top 20. In the Founders era, I'm not a big fan of Marshall, but he worked pretty good with Hamilton, and those guys.
So there must have been confrontation, because part of this article it says Patrick Henry said, and then John Marshall responded to Patrick Henry. So they must have whether it's from a distance or
from a distance, not necessarily from a distance, because actually Marshall I think he was born. He was probably only a teenager, maybe 15 when they ratified the Constitution, or 20, and he might have been 20 maybe then. But by the 1790s, he was starting to get positions in the court. Maybe he did write something in the and Patrick Henry was alive until 1799, and by
Google.
1799. By 1790, they probably. They contacted each other, I'm sure, in that area in the 90s.
Google and try to find this article. It's a great article. I saved it, but I don't. Somehow I didn't save.
I'm definitely going to do that. It would have to be in the 1790s, and it was probably having.
No, but I'm talking about Google this article that was written recently.
Right.
And I don't have the author. Somehow I saved it and didn't save the author. Who was right?
What was it about?
Here's the name of the article. Who was right? Patrick Henry or John Marshall?
Right.
Google and find that article and read it. It's a great article.
Well, exactly. That is the classic battle between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, because Marshall was the ultimate in Federalist. Him and Hamilton were the two biggest. Marshall actually probably pushed more than Hamilton, because Hamilton died in 1804, and this duel where Marshall was on at the Supreme Court till 1835. So Marshall, I'm sure that if I'll have to read that, because I haven't actually seen those two interact, but I think that would be definitely worthwhile. What was the premise of it? What was the premise of the article?
I'd have to read it again.
It would probably be one was more for states' rights, and the other one was more for, in fact, Patrick Henry started to change towards the end of his life, because, after they ratified the Constitution, he was, after they wrote the Constitution, because they asked him to come, and he should have gone to the Constitutional Convention because he was one of the most wise. He was just very much at liberty. He's the one who said, "Give me liberty or give me death." So it's basically, they said, "Will you come to our convention?" Which they had the year before in Annapolis, which was a disaster. But this time Washington was coming, but also Hamilton was going to be there. And when he got the invitation to go to the Constitution, Patrick Henry looked at it, fought away, and told people, "I smell a rat," and didn't go, and he didn't want to go for the Constitution. And which I kind of fault him, because he could have changed a lot of things right there. We needed him there. Where Monroe wanted to go, I think I might have told you a book about Monroe, and you're reading that book about Monroe. But Monroe wanted to go, but he ended up not getting to go, you know what I mean? Because he wanted to go, and then Jefferson wasn't even there. And I wish Jefferson was there. I wish Patrick Henry was there, even though they didn't get along good. And then Patrick Henry, after the thing was over, they says, "Well, who's going to go show Patrick what we just wrote? The guy that helped us start this whole revolution and make the country, And Washington volunteered, said, I'll take it to him. And Washington gave it to Patrick Henry, and he says, "Here's your Constitution, just the stuff you read right there, what you're reading tonight, minus Bill of Rights." Patrick Henry was a brilliant lawyer. Patrick Henry read that thing in 10 minutes flat, man. His eyes looked on it, and he looked at it, and he looked at Washington and handed it back to Washington, and he says, "It's worse than I thought," and walked out. And that's what Washington knew. He says, "I'm going to have to," he knew they had a battle on to get that thing ratified. So,
I could read that article to you if you wanted. It's 4 pages, but I did find RebelMadman.com is who put that article out. RebelMad.com, yes. And he's the one that did that, the one that put out that article, and it was a pretty good read. And I saved it so I can read it a couple more times.
Well, I'm going to check into that Rebel Madman. That sounds like a good read right there. Because I like to do, and what, I'm sure he's for Patrick Henry and said that,
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah.
Because Marshall was only rendering opinions anyways. And
Marshall only did one good thing that I know of, and that was his decision on Barron versus Baltimore. He laid it right on the line that the Constitution of the United States didn't apply to the people.
Yeah, he says it applies to the states only. Yeah, Barron versus Baltimore. And that was a good, and most of the rest was that's why Andrew Jackson said, "Let's see if the Supreme Court, can stop me, about his Charles Pierce and stuff." And that was, I don't know if he was, I think Marshall was still, that's right at the end of his term. Or when he finally decided to step down and passed away. I can't even remember how he left office, but he was there for a long time, man. Yep. Jay was the first Chief Justice, and he was the second one. So,
longer than Ginsburg?
What's that?
Longer than Ginsburg?
Longer than Ginsburg. Because Ginsburg's only been in there.
Of course, Ginsburg's not done yet.
No, but she's only been there. I don't think she came in during the 80s or 90s.
I'm only trying to be funny. I wouldn't even know the answer to that. I'm only trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Do you catch much Saturday Night Live?
No.
Okay.
You on Saturday Night Live?
Kate, it's not McKinnon, whatever her name is, does a funny skit on the news. When they do the news update every week, she does a real funny skit all about Ginsburg on a regular basis. It's pretty funny stuff.
Yeah. It's like I like when they do them skits. And cut down Trump and cut down everything. And, it's good about it. Exactly. And that's what brought Madison and Jefferson and bring them out. And in the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions are great because Adams did not want to be made fun of. And they were making fun of him. And that's when he had brought in the Alien and Sedition Acts. And saying, you can't make fun of Baldwin would lose a lot of money if he couldn't act like Trump. You know what I mean? He's funny as shit on some of his stuff, but I think it's great because these are servants of the people. They need to start acting like servants of the people instead of acting like they're some kind of high and mighty huffy puffy asshole. You know, it's like we need to get them back to their place.
As long as the badge wearers are willing to kick indoors from everything that comes out of their mouths, we ain't gonna stop much of that.
Exactly. And look what they did to, and I met Roger Stone before because he was actually thinking running for, we had a couple people running for senator here down in Florida for the Libertarian Party, and he came to our Libertarian Convention, and, you know, he bought us all drinks, a couple, you know, there's 100 some people there, and, you know, it's like a lot of people did drinks, so I got a lot of free drinks on them, said, hey, Roger, thank you, and stuff. But they busted down Roger's store with 29 officers and 15 cars, all this SWAT team. I mean, this is what they use government for. They use it as like it's brute force anymore. The deep state, and you know, the Constitution was never supposed to found a deep state, but the deep state is here. People don't care about it. It just gets deeper and deeper. You know, even before the 20th century was. The 21st century, we were only $2 trillion in debt, or maybe $3 at the smallest way when Bush when it turned to that 2000 election that court loss. And now today we're over $22 trillion, and most of it is heating up by this deeper and deeper state. And you know what? Trump's not cutting back on the deep state. People are so, you know, it isn't all that much different than when Obama was in there. They're still funding Planned Parenthood. They're still doing the same old, same old. People are so massivitized by Trump that are his followers. It's just like the people are massivitized by Obama. Oh, hope and change. No, Obama ain't going to do nothing different. Neither is Trump. You know, but people believe that Trump's going to do, you know, and he's just like, what's he going to do different? Nancy's kicking his ass all over the place. He's gonna, you know, if Trump's smart, he would shut the government down again. But if you don't do that, I think Holder's right. Holder says she came up with that. Did you hear what Ann Coulter came up with?
Who?
Ann Coulter.
Oh no, I didn't.
About Trump, because Trump's not getting anything and he's going to cave again. You know what I mean? And this time she says, it's the Yellow New Deal. She's calling him yellow. You know, the Green New Deal?
Right. But
she says Trump's going to be the Yellow New Deal. If he signs it, that's what she's calling. I mean, realistically, how many people, who thought that Trump was going to save us? Give me a break.
Why yellow?
Beyond Trump service.
Why yellow?
Why yellow? Because he should stand up and shut the government down. Either that or just call.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sitting there thinking, the sun's yellow, grass is green. Okay, you mean as far as chicken yellow? Yeah,
chicken yellow.
Okay.
That's why she's calling the Yellow. Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. It's the Yellow New Deal. Trump's chickening out from, you know, they're closing down the government again and stuff. And, you know, and he took a lot of heat for it, believe me. That's why he finally reopened it, because he was the one getting his ass kicked by Nancy, by the media and everybody else. But so what? Stand up. Don't be yellow. You know what I mean? Stand on principle. That's why we put you there. We know you're not like the rest of these idiots who are in there. And we know the Republicans and Democrats are both about the same piece of crap. It's been, you know, they just tell you they're different. You know, they aren't. But and that's the sad thing. People vote. The saddest thing is conservatives who really believe in, you know, like not forcing other people to pay for other people's abortions, vote Republicans, but the Republicans do the same thing the Democrats do. So to me, the saddest part is most people vote Republicans thinking they're going to get something done, and they're not. And Democrats, we know, they come out and say they're socialists. I have a hard time with people that vote Republican and say they're conservatives, because, look, you're not voting conservative when you vote Republican.
I always laugh and say, what, liberal in laws and conservative in freedoms?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I don't even know what they're not conservative in anything, Republicans. And it's just,
it's a nice title to throw around.
Right. Nixon gave us OSHA. Nixon gave us the DEA. Nixon gave us all kinds of deep state organizations,
Yep.
And it's just gone through there. The deep state just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And we look at it, we want to try to get away from this stuff instead of not paying these guys $100,000 a year plus big bonuses and to send them out on these SWAT teams to arrest Roger Stone. Are you serious?
Yeah.
But that's
and to
show up at his
house. Show up at his house, fully armed SWAT team.
I know. Well, that's what I was talking. There's 29 of them in 17 cars, and it's just like this is
all
what
they
we
had to
call,
do is go up and knock on his door and say, "Hey, you got to come with us." He would have said, "Okay, let's go."
Right. Roger's like, but I'm just saying, this is the stupidity we have. And Trump's lawyer is now, but just to teach him a lesson, because they're harassing him in every way they can. He's in solitary confinement, and I mean, I don't know. You probably talk to people who think Trump's doing good. I'm looking at, and people are still out there. The Trumpicans, for the people that got Trump glasses on, like. The jerk had his jerk glasses he sold, Trump. It's like, are you kidding me? His lawyer's in jail. The ball hasn't even really started. They're still funding abortions. Obamacare is still there. Let me say, Pelosi's back in power, and you're going to tell me how great he's doing? Are you guys brainwashed or what?
But he's going to build a wall.
Oh, they show off and say, healthy. I mean, are these people like delirious?
Yeah. All these presidents are anymore. All these presidents are anymore the facade. They're all just facades.
I know it is. I try to tell people that actually, that are all behind Trump, like. At the most, Trump is a little lump in their road. One time speed bump, they're just going to speed off away. And I says, that's it. Or another way I like to explain it is, back, after Kennedy was shot, or when Kennedy was shot, we probably had about 2 ounces in a beer glass and a little half ounce of foam on top, for dark beer, say. That was our deep state. Today, our deep state is 80-ounce beer glass, had the little foam on top. Trump's
how about a whole keg?
And you got Trump stirring the foam on top. But what's happening to the deep state? It's just getting bigger.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at today. And people don't see the deep state. They don't want to even talk about the deep state because they don't want to get harassed by, and the deep state's intertwined with Big Brother government. I mean, business. So Big Brother, you got crony capitalism and crony government, hand in hand, trying to manipulate us into a new world order.
Yep. And they throw out whichever side that pendulum is pushed the most to. They make sure that person is the one that's put into the office to make everybody think that they achieved something.
Right. But I think where our founders had a problem, I think had it kind of wrong is maybe Hamilton was right in a way because, government's more for their stock. The people just aren't ever going to grab hold of it, although they do like freedom and they don't like to be bothered by government and don't like to be taxed. So as long as they kept that going and they hardly seen any government, that's what made America thrive. Yeah. But today, that's no longer the case, and now they're coming to the point. They're coming to the point where they're trying to sell the idea of socialism. In fact, even O'Donnell's bringing it up for a vote. Yeah. He's bringing up Ortiz's or whatever her name is. That young girl's. He's bringing up
AOC. AOC.
Yeah,
I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, Cortez is the last part. But anyways, they're bringing up for vote about her policy for making us socialist, electric, and change everything about this country.
One of the biggest threads I have on Facebook where I've had the most. No, I'm looking. Maybe this wasn't it. I thought this is the one that had the most comments. It's not, but I'll still tell you. Where I wrote on my Facebook, I said neither AOC or Representative Ian Omar is anybody's business except their constituents. And people can't comprehend that the representative government, what it really is. But yeah, there's a lot going on that they're pushing this AOC. It's like, get off of it. That's just a distraction.
Right.
Oh, well, the laws she can make. No, she can't make laws. She can have influence. But if her constituents actually voted her in place and it wasn't outside influence affecting their district, then that's their right to have her in there. Put someone, you get in your district and get somebody to offset what she has to say. That's what it's about.
Right. And you know, they do have the right to say that, you know what I mean? And there's something wrong with that. But what I hate more than them saying that is Mitch McDonald, who should be saying this is totally unconstitutional. This should, my constituents aren't going for it, and it's wrong. Instead, he says, I'm going to bring it up for a vote. Now you're giving legitimacy. You're giving the vote up there, even if you slaughter or whatever. It's placed in the annals when it shouldn't have been, and you're talking about it. And now you're almost planting the seed. And
I missed something. What is being put up for vote exactly? What are you talking about?
That bill, her bill about everybody riding on trains and.
Oh, the green thing.
Yeah, the green.
Is it green. There's a section in there where she says males should pee in a jug and put it in the sun to sterilize it, and then they should re-drink it. Is that a fact, or is that something somebody made up?
I think somebody made that one up.
I think so too. There's no way that's in there.
Yeah, but again, you know, you're only planting to help her plant a seed. Mitch McDonald was wrong for bringing that in there. And that, you know, but he did, you know, and they're going to vote on it. How stupid it is, you know, stupid as it is, you know. Hey, they have the right to say it. I don't care if they say it. Just don't give it, you know, more time than concern. And that's the same thing about different states bringing up the abortion thing. You know what? You should be more worried that the Republicans who you voted and think are against abortion are forcing you to pay taxes to pay for other people's abortions.
Yeah.
Why is it your own Republicans for doing that, forcing you to pay for kill somebody else's baby if you think it's wrong? You know, and that to me is the biggest crime there is, because the abortions, they say they're against it, but when they're in there, they never even took it down.
Yeah.
Never stood for it. They're yellow. Republicans are the yellowest party. Maybe that's why Ann Coulter said the Yellow New Deal, because they are very yellow.
They are, yeah. Yep.
And that's what really needs to be talked about.
Yep.
But that's good you're keeping up with the series, man. I'm glad of that. I'm going to have to definitely check that out. I'm going to write it down now. And that's the Rebel. What was the Rebel? Yeah, but I know.
Hang on. I got to scroll.
You don't have to
here. I'll find it. No, I'm right here. I just got to scroll and find it again. It's right here.
I'll just get it. I'll get it from Henry and Marshall.
Rebelmadman.com.
Okay. Rebelmadman.com. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I love things with Patrick Henry in it, you know, because he's one of my favorite, the anti-federalist thing. But, you know, he wasn't, like I said, but, you know, we can all judge everybody in the past and everybody whatever. None of us are perfect. That's why we need limited, our founders were smart enough to understand we need limited government. But, unfortunately, we don't have limited government. We've been talking about it. We have the biggest, largest, most intrusive government that ever existed on the planet.
I don't even like using that word, limited. Because as far as I'm concerned, Republican form of government is a government under the jurisdiction of a constitution, and that constitution lists their powers. Their powers are not limited, they're listed.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't even use that word limited.
Right, but it is limited in the form that it is listed. That's and I understand that enlisted is better, and it would be nice to get back to that. But and there's a lot of people that study the Constitution that have the same training, which is kind of good. It's like, and I kind of like what your friend's doing in North Carolina. That's good. And we got Chris and Carl coming to speak at our meeting. Me and my friends are putting together next month, and I'm doing and next weekend I'm doing George Fest, and with the Libertarian Party we pass out a lot of good information, and we do that
good.
every
You're
year.
Still active, cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, in 2 weeks, I've been keeping up with the 2-week thing. I've been trying to get the show written and recorded, so as I read it, I'm not stumbling. But I just barely finished about 7 minutes before the show started tonight. I finished that last little bit. So hopefully, either way, I plan on Section 8, the next show. That's a big one. That's the big one right there.
Yes, Article Section 8 is the big one.
Yeah,
and
that's where I'm at.
I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can do that one in one show, but
I may only cover the taxing in one show.
Yeah, because it's clause 17 that the Patriot Corps thinks is the point.
You know what?
Wrong.
I wrote that down again, and I got to make sure.
Just read through. It's almost the last.
What happened?
I don't know.
I got no volume from you all of a sudden.
It might be one or two past that.
Oh, I bumped my microphone. I lost the volume from you. I could just barely hear you. I don't know what you just said.
Okay, the Articles Section 7 or Article 8, Section 17 is almost the last one in the article. I think there might be 18 or 19 sections. But it's like the last sentence almost.
Yeah, it's going to be 18. It's going to be 18. Yeah, but I have got to make sure before I get to Clause 18 that I check out this Patriot Corps and see what they got to say about it. But yeah, it's Clause 18. Wait a minute.
17.
Oh, 17.
17. Yeah, Clause 17.
Oh, and then 18 is the one that gives the powers to legislate for all the foregoing powers. Yeah. 17 is the one you're talking about. I got to remember to go to Patriot Corps to do a little research on that 17 when I write that. But yeah, next show is Section 8. I may only get done with taxing. Basically, I read about 7 to 10 pages, and I stop there. So I may not even get done with taxing.
Right.
Because that's a big one too.
And we got a video feed there, or oral feed there. You can listen to my best friend here in Florida. Here, he actually did the sound for him, or actually, narrated for him.
On Patriot Corps.
Yep.
And that's Patriot
and he has this, Patriot Corps, like Marine Corps. Corps.
Oh, okay. C-O-R-P?
Corpse. I'm sorry, Corpse. Patriot Corps.
C-O-R-P-S. Is that like .com?
Yeah.
.com.
Or,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to get there before I write Clause 17.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll like that one. He can listen to him. But I got to get going here, so we'll talk to you next. Talk to you in a couple weeks.
I'm down to 10 minutes anyways. It's time to wrap up the show, and we'll talk to you again, I'm sure.
All right, man. Later.
All right, thanks.
Time to take.
Well, that's the end of our show for tonight. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for anybody for listening, whether you're live in the archives or listening to us on YouTube once I get it up on this show up on YouTube. Next week's the big one. Article 1, Section 8. No, wait a minute. Did I say it right? Yeah, Article 1, Section 8. The powers of Congress, the tasks that were assigned to Congress. The main purpose of that Constitution was to assign these tasks to the Congress to do for the states. We're going to cover that in detail. Whether one show is going to be enough, I don't know. But that's the big one, to get people to understand what the Congress was supposed to do for the states. And hopefully after the next show or the 2 shows, whatever it takes to cover that, my listeners will be a little more in tune with what their duties are to enforce the Constitution upon themselves. The Congress was not tasked with following the Constitution. The people were tasked refusing anything that came out of the Congress that didn't align with what that document established in 1789. And incrementally, the people accepted one thing after another. And each acceptance was usually accompanied with some sort of benefit that they perceived. So they turned their back and allowed that monster to grow. And it became the monster that the Anti-Federalists feared in the late 1700s. So tune into our next show. So far, it's been every 2 weeks, and most likely that's when I'll be on again is 2 weeks from tonight, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. And thanks again for listening. I would like to thank everyone for listening in tonight. Whether you listened in live, whether you are listening to a recording in our Blog Talk Radio archives, or whether you are viewing us on our YouTube channel, we humbly appreciate your presence. For those of you who are not already viewing our YouTube channel, you can find us by searching YouTube for the Constitution Explained in Children's Terms. Not only should the results be our individual shows, there should also be an icon to click to take you to our channel, where you will find all of our shows listed as we manage to get them uploaded. For those of you who would like to join our Facebook group, I don't know the workings of Facebook, nor understand why a Facebook search for the U.S. Constitution Explained in Children's Terms does not bring up our group. You can find me and send me a private message asking me to add you to our group. Do a Facebook search for Harry, that's Harry, know him as Noemas. Send me a friend request and a private message telling me that you would like to be added to our group, and I will accept and add you. That's our show for tonight. However, I would like to leave you with an important thought. We cannot repaint the past. We cannot even recolor today. Tomorrow is a whole different story waiting for us to mark it whatever shade we prefer. Good night, everyone.